penalties for traffic-related offences could rise under the upcoming budget. Disneyland reports strong profits and rising visitor numbers. And the government plans to expand the producer responsibility scheme to include plastic drinks containers. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The government's budget is poised to be unveiled by Financial Secretary Paul Chan tomorrow. It is understood the administration intends to raise the penalties for traffic-related offences, an adjustment that has not been made for some 30 years. They include raising fines against illegal parking from the current $320 for most offences to at least $400. Currently, at least 60 traffic-related offences are subject to a fine of $320 to $1,000. The fines charged, including illegal parking, have not been adjusted since the 1990s. It's understood the government's budget will propose a raise. The government is reportedly inclined to raise the fines for illegal parking from the current minimum of $320 to about $400 to $480. For speeding offences, at present, the fixed penalties for speeding will be replaced by a penalty system that relates to how far the motorists have gone beyond the speed limit, with a fine ranging from $320 to $1,000. Reportedly, the government is considering an upward revision across all penalty levels for the offence. Possible hikes in fines against drop-offs on traffic lanes marked with double yellow lines as well. This truck driver said it's hard for them to accept heavier fines as they are already having a hard time financially. This motorist doubted if such fines will bring much income to the public coffers anyway. Lawmaker and surveyor Tony Tse said the increase in fines might increase the government income by an additional $900 million to $1 billion. But he expects backlash from the public opinion in the early stage of implementation, so he said it's best to adopt a 3-month transition period for the public to get used to the policy. The new budget will be released with the government facing a budget deficit close to $100 billion. Some experts say the government should not expand the city's tax base as a way to tackle the deficit. Memo Sangai reports.
All eyes are on how the government will tackle the financial deficit in the new budget. Members of the public have proposed ideas for expenditure cutting and revenue increase. These include an expansion of the city's tax system by introducing new duties ranging from consumption to land departure. Known for its simplicity and transparency, the tax system is often seen as one of Hong Kong's strengths. A taxation expert said now is not the appropriate time to broaden the city's tax base.
This simplicity definitely will have another side of features where it is usually more sensitive to economic development because of the internal, external, and even on the U.S. trade protective measures. All the economy and jurisdictions are actually staying really cautious on what's happening and the development going forward. I think it's really essential for the government to understand what exactly the market's working right now.
In 2024, the government imposed a top earner tax. Individuals who earn a yearly income of more than $5 million are subject to a duty of 16%. Sources say authorities considered increasing the tax on the high pay group for the second year. Some are concerned the policy may affect the competitiveness of the SAR in attracting talent. However, shared opportunities rather than duties will be the factor for people to decide if they want to come to the city or not. An academic who also sides with the opinion that the tax system should not be adjusted at this time said residents could view the fiscal deficit from a different angle.
A better way to look at it is the government now, they are different from before. Previously, we have a lot of resources, revenue, reserve. Now we are under a little pressure. So I see that this pressure to be a very good thing. Every dollar they spend in the future, they will have to spend very wisely.
On economic policies for the coming financial year, the academic says the government should work closely with relevant sectors and even take the initiative to support stakeholders during difficult times for certain projects. Memos 9. TVB News.
A reminder, TVB Pearl will broadcast Financial Secretary Paul Chan's budget tomorrow live at 11 in the morning. Hong Kong Disneyland returned to profit in 2024, with its net gains reaching $838 million. That has also marked its highest profit since the park opened in Hong Kong nearly 20 years ago. This year marks the 20th anniversary of Hong Kong Disneyland, which is also met with good news, a long-awaited turnaround in profitability in 2024 after 9 years of losses. With an income of $8.8 billion, the park reported a net profit of $838 million. The park said it has started repaying the loans borrowed from the government and the Walt Disney Company. In the first quarter of 2025, more than 60% of the loans have been repaid. Last year, Hong Kong Disneyland welcomed 7.7 million visitors, up by 21% year-on-year. The park said the increase came from not just the locals, but also thanks to a strong rebound in visitor arrivals from the mainland and Southeast Asian markets.
We are doing research as well. So we see in Tokyo, Disneyland is very crowded than here in Hong Kong. That's why we choose the Hong Kong.
It's easier to go to. Unlike Japan, we have to apply for visa. And this is nearer.
The park said it will fund the 20th anniversary celebration and a new Pixar-themed attraction itself.
While it is our hope that we pay off the loan as soon as is prudent, we are continuing to invest in the future. All of the 20th anniversary celebration elements are funded solely by Hong Kong Disneyland. As it relates to new source markets, recently is the appeal of the Muslim community to Hong Kong. I can tell you that we've been a leader in this space. We have halal food. We have other amenities such as prayer rooms and others to make guests feel welcome from everywhere.
Eligible staff will see a salary hike of 3.6 to 5%, with a 2.4 months worth of bonus based on performances. The government is planning to amend the legislation to expand the producer responsibility scheme, encompassing plastic beverage containers and beverage cartons. Secretary for Environment and Ecology Tse Chin-wen said to trim the cost of recycling, they are aiming to adopt the market-led approach. That means beverage suppliers will be responsible for the recycling efforts. Some 7 million to 8 million plastic bottles are produced in Hong Kong every day. Most end up in landfills. The government plans to amend the legislation to revamp the producer responsibility scheme with a market-led model. The scheme will be rolled out in 4 phases. The first phase will cover the recycling of plastic bottles and carton drinks. The targeted recycling rates are set at 30% and 10% respectively. The final phase sets sights on bringing the recycling rates up to 70% and 50% respectively, about 6 to 8 years after the launch of the project. Secretary for Environment and Ecology Tse Chin-wen said product suppliers can choose to handle the recycling work themselves or outsource the efforts to other companies at their own expense. Secretary for Environment and Ecology Tse Chin-wen said the government is only setting the recycling targets and the minimum rebate amount, but the companies will have the market-led flexibility on the ways to recycle so as to trim the overall recycling costs. Tse said a registration system will be in place under the scheme, meaning all drinks will bear a registered label before they can be sold in the market. He said such requirements apply to outlets including supermarkets, convenience stores and mom-and-pop shops, but also parallel import traders. Tse said beverage suppliers fail to meet the recycling target will be fined. Hong Kong's first homegrown artificial intelligence large language model was officially launched today. Celine Chan reports.
Hong Kong's first locally developed generative artificial intelligence model, Hong Kong Guy V1, can recompose songs and even generate an AI singer to perform the piece. Sponsored by the government, the team led by the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology adjusted the parameters of the state-developed DeepSeek open-source large language model and came up with the Hong Kong Guy V1 model. The team labeled Hong Kong data and fed the model with the data to localize the AI model. In addition to generating tables immediately after conducting online research, the model can even generate videos based on just one photo. It supports Cantonese, English, and Putonghua. Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry Sun Dong deemed the introduction of the generative AI tool a remarkable innovation and technological achievement beneath the Lion Rock, as it took the team just 1.5 years to launch the product from scratch. Around 70 government departments have started using the AI tool since its beta version launched last year. The team said their goal is to make the model available to the public gradually. While both free and paid versions will be offered, they'll try their best to make sure most functions are available free of charge. Celine Chan, TVB News.
Chinese-developed artificial intelligence model DeepSeek has garnered global attention after its launch. The China National Intellectual Property Administration said it rejected 63 bad faith trademark registrations related to DeepSeek. Here in Hong Kong, several company registrations could be seen bearing the same or similar names as DeepSeek. This is the Hong Kong registered office of one newly registered company that bears DeepSeek in its name. Located in a commercial building in Mong Kok, the company is a business secretary firm, but DeepSeek is nowhere to be found on the building directory. The city also saw several newly established companies on the 5th and 7th of this month named Deep Search, DeepSeek Hong Kong and DeepSeek. Lawmaker Johnny Ng said it is legal to register such company names in Hong Kong as they are not completely the same as the name of the Chinese AI giant DeepSeek, but the original DeepSeek can file a lawsuit if these companies undermine its interests or engage in scam activities.
When the original owner, like DeepSeek, they found that there's some company registered the same name with them, with some illegal profits, they can have a legal civil case. But I think in Hong Kong, we can think about whether we can do more proactively for the company registry or the trademark agency in order to make sure do more protections for the new rising company. But need to balance about whether it will damage to our business environment.
The mainland found 63 cases of bad faith registration of trademarks, including applications with the name DeepSeek or DeepSeek's well motive. The China National Intellectual Property Administration said some enterprises submitted trademark registration applications with suspected intentions to attract attention, seek improper benefits, or even provide illegal services. The administration said it will handle the alleged malicious applications to maintain a good business environment and the order of trademark registration. And still ahead, Donald Trump meets Emmanuel Macron in the White House. The U.S. sides with Russia in United Nations votes on the Ukraine war. The U.S. is pressuring allies and chip makers to add more restrictions on China's chip industry. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump met with French President Emmanuel Macron in Washington on the third anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Trump said he was hopeful that the war was nearing an endgame. He also alluded to the idea that Putin would accept European peacemakers to enter Ukraine post-conflict. Tracy Furness has more.
Sitting side by side in the Oval Office, a long, firm handshake signalling unity, even though there have been some differences on the way ahead for Ukraine between Trump, Macron and other European leaders, including on the subject of compensation.
Just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear. Yeah. We have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen.
When asked whether he thought Russian President Vladimir Putin would approve of peacemakers in Ukraine, Trump was positive.
Yeah, he will accept that. I've asked him that question. You talked to him? I've asked him that question.
Is he going to lift the block on the...
Because he's not, look, if we do this deal, he's not looking for more war.
Turning to tariffs on Canada and Mexico, Trump said they are starting next month after a month-long suspension on the planned import taxes that could potentially hurt economic growth and worsen inflation.
We're on time with the tariffs, and it seems like that's moving along very rapidly. We want reciprocity. We want to have the same. So if somebody charges us, we charge them. It's very simple, but it'll be very good for our country.
On February 1st, Trump signed an executive order to impose a 25% tariff on goods imported from Mexico and Canada, with a 10% tariff increase specifically for Canadian energy products. Separately, the French president told Fox News after meeting with Trump that he hoped he had convinced the US leader to avoid a possible trade war. Macron said the US and European economies are intertwined and Trump's plan to hike tariffs to levels he feels are fair would make it harder to challenge China's industrial strength. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The United States twice voted with Russia at the United Nations on debates about the war in Ukraine. President Trump's change of emphasis was apparent as the U.S. drafted and voted for a resolution at the Security Council calling for peace, but not mentioning Russia as the aggressor. David Garrett reports.
At the UN Security Council, America's change of direction is clear. Citing the bold leadership of President Trump, the U.S. sets out a path toward peace in Ukraine.
I would say rest assured that we too seek this durable peace, and we would remind these colleagues that this resolution is not a peace deal and it imposes no costs. Rather, this resolution represents the path to peace.
Current rotating President China's Fu Xiong calls for the council to vote. The US drafted resolution acknowledges tragic loss of life during the conflict and asks for a swift and lasting peace, but does not mention Moscow's aggression. The UN Security Council approves the American resolution with 10 votes in favour, including China. Beijing calls on the Security Council to play a constructive role in promoting peace talks. 5 abstentions, all from Europe. It's the first time the UN's most powerful body has reached consensus since the war started 3 years ago. The Council calling for an end to the conflict, backing the US's path to peace.
It is a first step, but a crucial one of which we should all be proud. Now we must use it to build a peaceful future for Ukraine, Russia, and the international community. I thank you.
Earlier at the UN General Assembly, Ukraine applauded while Russia and the US looked dissatisfied. UN members approving a European-backed Ukrainian resolution condemning Russia and demanding an immediate withdrawal from Ukraine. The United States extraordinarily opposing it, voting with Russia. It passed 93-18 with the chamber backing Ukraine's territory and calls for accountability for war crimes. The US abstained on their own amended resolution, which later passed through the Security Council. The result 93-8 after European amendments adding language about Ukrainian sovereignty. A success for Ukraine.
We will continue working on ensuring accountability for serious crimes under international law committed on the territory of Ukraine as part of Russia's aggression.
Russia's UN ambassador calls the vote a distortion of the truth. David Garrett, TVB News.
The U.S. government is said to be pressuring its allies and chip makers to escalate their restrictions on China's chip industry, a move that Beijing criticized as protectionist. It followed Donald Trump's signing of a memorandum which directs a U.S. Committee on Foreign Investment to curb China's investments in strategic sectors. Danny Zhou has the story.
The Trump administration is trying to prevent China from developing a domestic chip industry that could boost its artificial intelligence and military prowess, building on actions initiated under Joe Biden. Media reports said U.S. officials recently met with their Japanese and Dutch counterparts on restricting Tokyo Electron and ASML engineers from servicing semiconductor gear in China. Sources say Washington's aim is to see key allies aligned with its curbs on China. It is also reported that some Trump officials are pushing for tighter restrictions on the quantity and type of NVIDIA chips that can be exported to China without a license. The foreign ministry in Beijing held a firm stance against the U.S. actions of coercing other countries to throttle China, saying this has impeded the development of the global semiconductor industry and their actions will ultimately backfire. A spokesman accused Washington of politicizing and weaponizing trade and technology issues. He said it has overstretched the concept of national security in the malicious blockade and suppression of Chinese chips. Meanwhile, after Trump said Apple CEO Tim Cook plans to ship manufacturing from Mexico to the U.S., the company on Monday pledged to invest $500 billion in manufacturing facilities, data centers, and entertainment productions in the United States over the next 4 years. Apple's commitment includes hiring 20,000 people and building a giant factory in Texas for AI servers. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Back locally, police have arrested 3 people, including a 16-year-old student, on suspicion of reselling fake tickets for the opening ceremony of the Kai-Tak Sports Park. 2 of the suspects do not even hold an e-ticket to swap for a physical ticket, the one will need to attend the event. The sports park is slated to open on March 1st. More than 8,000 tickets were up for grabs online last Friday at the price of $10 each. Police received reports about alleged ticket scalping activities. The tickets were put up for resale at inflated prices of up to $2,000. 3 sellers aged between 16 and 33 were apprehended on suspicion of attempts to defraud, including a student and a makeup artist. Earlier this month, Taiwanese actress Bobby Xu, also known as Big S, died suddenly from flu complications. Professor David Hui, the director of S.H. Ho Research Center for Infectious Diseases at the Chinese University, said in TVB's Straight Talk program that many Hong Kong residents have since flocked to get vaccinated.
Well, every year the government has stocked a certain amount. I think the recent news of the celebrity who passed away due to flu increased the public awareness. So people now, they go for the vaccines. It takes 2 weeks to build up antibody. Now, the vaccine is not 100% protective. Overall, there is actually vaccine effectiveness of about 40 to 60% in preventing the influenza infection during the seasons. If you travel in very crowded areas, like on the plane, in the airport, taking public transports where there are lots of people, it would be advisable to put on a surgical mask to prevent the droplet inhalation.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.